This video is about solving system of linear equation using the elimination method. When using the elimination method, make sure the coefficients of one of the variables are the same. For example, if you're talking about x and y, if you want to eliminate x, the coefficient of x in both equations must be the same. Okay. 2. If the signs of the variable with the same coefficient are the same, you subtract one equation from the other. So if you have 2x in one equation and 2x in the other equation, the fact that they're both positive, you subtract one equation from the other to get rid of the x. And finally, if the signs of the variable with the same coefficient are different, you add both equations. So if in one equation you have x, and in the other equation you have negative x, then those two signs are different, so you add both equations. Let's look at an example. Okay, example 1. Now, first we want to examine this equation. When we look at the x's, this is negative 4x, this is negative 5x. The coefficients are different. So these are what we call the coefficients. They are different. Okay? Now let's look at the y's. Y is the same as saying 1y. Okay? And negative y is the same as saying negative 1y. So the coefficients are the same. It's 1 here and it's 1 here. But the signs are different. So because the signs are different, we're going to add both equations. Okay? So it is negative 4x plus negative 5x, that is negative 9x, and y minus y, that is plus 0y, equals 6 plus 21, that is 27. Okay? So essentially we have negative 9x equals 27, and we divide both sides by 9, by negative 9, so x equals negative 3. Now that you have found your x to be negative 3, you're going to substitute this value for x in any one of these equations. Okay? So I could call this equation 1, I could call that equation 2. So let's say we use equation 1. So right in equation 1, it says negative 4x plus y equals 6. But remember that your x is negative 3. Alright? So negative 4 times negative 3, that is positive 12, plus y equals 6. And then we subtract 12 from both sides. So y equals negative 6. Okay? So your solution as an ordered pair would be negative 3 for the x and negative 6 for the y. This is your solution here. Okay? Alright. Let's look at another example. And this time we want to use, we're still going to build on the same concept here, but this one is x plus 3y equals 1, negative 3x minus 3y equals negative 15. Okay, again we're looking at both equations. If we look at our x's, the coefficient for the first equation is 1. The coefficient of x here in the first equation is 1. The coefficient of x here is negative 3. So we see that these are two different numbers. When we look at the y, the coefficient of y here is 3 and the coefficient here is negative 3. So the numbers are the same and the signs are different. So once the signs are different, we're adding both equations. So remember, you can only add x to x, y to y, constant to constant, or number to number. Okay? So 1x plus negative 3x, that is negative 2x, and 3y minus 3y, that is plus 0y, equals 1 plus negative 15, that is negative 14. So essentially we have negative 2x equals negative 14, and we divide both sides by negative 2, so x equals 7. Now that you have found your x to be 7, you're going to substitute this value for x in any one of these equations. Since I only have one x here, I'm going to use equation 1. So it is x plus 3y equals 1. But remember now that my x is 7. So I put a 7 here. Okay? So what we have is 7 plus 3y equals 1. I subtract 7 from both sides. So this is 3y equals negative 6. And I divide both sides by 3, so y equals negative 2. Okay, so my solution would be 7 for the x and negative 2 for the y. Okay, alright. Let's look at another one real quick. Okay, so this time we have negative 3x plus 3y equals 4, and negative x plus y equals 3. Now in this case, when we look at the x, we realize we have a negative 3 here and we have a negative 1 here, so they are different. We have a positive 3 here and a positive 1 here, they are also different. So what we can do, we want our x to be the same, or y to be the same. So in such a case, I can go ahead and multiply all of this equation by 3. If I multiply all of this equation by 3, then this would now become negative 3x, because 3 times negative x, that's negative 3x, plus 3 times y, that is 3y, equals 3 times 3, that is 9. So the two equations that we are working with now, let's put that in a different color. That would be negative 3x, which is this, plus 3y, which is this, equals 4. And then we would have negative 3x, which is this part here, plus 3y equals 9. And there seems to be some issue with this equation here. It doesn't seem to make much sense. But let's see. Okay, so the signs are the same in both equations. So if I subtract this equation, it means that this negative sign is going to change all of these in the parentheses there. So what we would now have negative 3x, which is this one here, plus 3y, which is that, equals 4. Now negative times negative is positive, so that would be 3x, and negative times positive, that is negative, that's 3y, equals negative times positive, that is negative. So as I looked at this thing here, it would go to 0, because this part would go to 0, this part would go to 0. This would equal to negative 5. So we don't have any x, we don't have any y, so this would be no solution. There's no solution there. Okay? Alright, so if you come across a situation like this where both your x and your y, they are all cancelled, there is no solution there. Okay? Let's look at our final example for this video. We have negative 5x plus y equals negative 3, 3x minus 8y equals 24. Okay, again we look at both x and y. We see that x here has a negative 5 for its coefficient and a 3 here. Those are different numbers. We have 1 here for the y and negative 8 here for the y. They're also different numbers. But we realize if we multiply this equation by 8, then we can have our y's to be the same number coefficient. Okay, so this would give us, let's take it on here, 8 times negative 5x, that would be negative 40x, plus 8 times 1y, that is 8y, equals 8 times negative 3, that is negative 24. Alright, now we did not do anything to this equation, so let's rewrite it here. 3x minus 8y equals positive 24. Now we see that our y's have the same coefficient, but the signs are different. So once the signs are different, we're adding. Okay, so negative 40x plus 3x, that would be negative 37x, plus 8y minus 8y, that would be 0y, equals negative 24 plus 24, that is 0. So this is really negative 37x equals 0. So if we divide both sides by negative 37, it still come to 0. So x would equal to 0 here. Now that you have found your x to be 0, you still got to substitute it in any one of these equations. This, or this. So let's say we use this equation here. So we want to find y. So it would be negative 40x plus 8y equals negative 24. But remember that our x is 0. So I put a 0 here. So that would be 0 plus 8y equals negative 24. And I divide both sides by 8. So y would equal negative 3. So your solution would be x, which is 0, and y, which is negative 3. Alright? Thank you for watching. Hope you have learned something.